This video has some of the craziest Karen stories you're going to hear today, and our first one's called, "I was the only employee and quit because my boss is a Karen. Now she's suing me," posted by Any Fortune 1811. I started working in a small fabric store about 2 months ago. The hours were short, and it wasn't all that busy, and the owner seemed nice at first. The drama began the moment I started. I noticed that there was no cash register. I was used to working with an electronic cash register for my 2 previous jobs, but here, checkout was done differently. She showed me the little cash box that even a 2-year-old could pick the lock off and the price tags, or rather lack thereof. She wanted the price of everything to be hidden so the customer could make up their mind before they find out the real price. Some items didn't even have a price. She was also particular about how she wanted the slips of paper with our revenue written and where she wanted them placed. She even told me to guess, which always ended with me guessing far too low because the stuff was not great quality. A button for 1.8 euros, regular jersey fabric for $24.99, dull scissors for $27, and a little money pouch for $35. Half the stuff was absolutely mental. She said she needed assistance because she wanted to start some sort of training I don't even know. I should have noticed something then because she was adamant about leaving the store to me and A. I was hired as a help, 10 hours a week max. She wanted to raise that threshold to 20 hours or, if she had her way, 30 hours. Mind you, I'm studying full time and I was also working for the General Students Committee. I got exams coming up and this work was meant to be a side hustle. I had plenty on my plate. And then A quit. She lost her mind. She tried to force A to work, who did not give a dang and let herself be fired. I had a little trial shift where she wanted to get to know me and show me everything. She let me handle some customers. One of them was a little girl who wanted to sew herself a Greek toga. Picture a chiton, and I got big time excited because I used to sew costumes and knew exactly how you could easily sew something like that. I told her how I would do it, and the girl was super happy and told me that she'd come back with her parents. B was not happy. We don't do that kind of stuff here, like costumes. This is a serious business. I got reprimanded for that. Yeah, she was also a hardcore Christian. She kept a Bible next to the cash register and told me that she wouldn't carry anything that goes against her religion. The only example she gave me was skulls. No skulls, not even during Halloween. Not even in combination with the pirate theme. The first real problem came when I wanted to be paid at the end of my first month. Usually, you sign a personnel questionnaire when you first sign your employment contract. She somehow managed to forget about it, then called me the day it was due to tell me to come in. I was busy that day, and then told me to come in on Monday to sign it. I overslept that day and I was late, and I had a mental breakdown because she gave me the impression that I was going to get fired. And on Monday, as I rushed into the store, told me that I was going to be fined because the document was late. Since I'm such a good person, I'm going to cover the fine this time, but if this happens again, that's going to be deducted from your pay. She also said that she would have offered me a permanent position, like I had not explicitly told her I couldn't do more than 10 to 15 hours per week. She continued to dodge questions about my pay though, saying that she couldn't send it because some secretary in the payroll office was on holiday. I don't even know what that had to do with anything. And then telling me that we might need to deduct something from my pay in retrospect. Yeah, no. The second real problem arose when a customer came in demanding her finished order, 2 small purses for her kids who were about to start school in 3 days to be embroidered and a little ribbon sewn on. About 30 minutes of work. I, however, couldn't find them since it wasn't with the other projects, and after I called B, the Karen, she yelled at me that there's nothing she could do about it since she's driving. The customer heard it since she was literally screaming at me. B had talked to the customer before, saying that it would take 1.5 weeks. That, however, was 3 weeks ago. Then changed that to come back Thursday, not even making a promise that it would be done by then. As the customer got angrier, at her, not at me, mind you, she finally got the message and rushed into the shop 2 hours later to finish the project, not saying a word to me. The sweet lady from down the street, who had seen everything go down and comforted me after, brought me a coffee and, without acknowledging my boss, she said loud enough for B to hear, "Don't let it or her get you down." I was grateful for that after a long day of stress. When another customer complained after she sewed the broken zipper back onto her skirt, but failed to notice the broken slider thing on the zipper, I called her again because I can't do returns. Well, what the heck is this girl doing with that? It's broken again already. And then went on to call the young woman broke for not wanting to pay 30 euros to exchange the zipper. Yes, the woman heard it all and was shocked. I saved her the 30 euros by simply inserting a new slider, and I told her to be careful with it. 0.8 euros and the customer was overjoyed. Haven't heard back from her since. B also accused me of being late because a customer who was supposed to get her order didn't show up. I'm always 15 minutes early, and luckily that morning I took a photo for my hubby when I reached the store because I was digging my outfit. Lucky. She also accused me of not being friendly after someone, she didn't say who, saw people arguing in front of our shop. After I went digging with our shop's neighbors, I found out that no one saw anything, and even B wouldn't elaborate as to what these people looked like, when it was, or why the person thought the people were unhappy with my service. Ruined my evening, that one, especially since she sent me an array of voicemails asking when I would send my report. Voicemail via some message board that I have to send after every single day, talking about what happened, and that she would like me to still be in the store when I send it in case she has something to add. Like I'm gonna wait 30 minutes for you to reply, after spending 15 minutes cleaning up the store, counting cash, writing your slip of paper, and bringing all the knickknacks that you keep outside inside. Sure, pay me then. She is also incredibly dirty. Like, I get leaving stuff lying around, but I don't get why 2 coffee mugs have to be kept inside the store to develop mold, or why you would leave a singular used fork with food still on it on your desk, visible for customers, or why you would leave milk out for a week in our 1x1 meter break room, 40 by 40 inches, which wasn't even usable because there was trash piled up in the corner since we don't have a trash can. She kept belittling everything that I did. I used to do PR, and I was offering to take pictures for us to upload on our Google business page. She told me no, she doesn't want to build an online presence. What? And when I told her people like to Google fabric store and see what shops pop up and then decide where to go, she told me that I was wrong, and that's not how people shop. I was also saying that she should maybe take her name out of the business Instagram's name feature, you know, the little nickname thing under the @ because no one was going to find the shop with an @ like name.of_the_shop. She said no, people would find it. I'm studying this, and you'd think that she'd put a little faith in me. It also cost nothing. I would have done it all for free. Thank God I didn't. When she told me to decorate our shop window for back-to-school items, I yet again could do no right. Yes, we are a fabric store. Yes, we sell plates and cups now. First, I had to wash the plates because when I found them, they were sprawled all over the floor as if someone knocked them over and thought, OP will clean it up. I had to buy a pack of paper towels in my non-existent lunch break, and she seriously said, I told you I'd bring some. The shop can't afford those right now. She didn't bring any. I needed them now, and they were literally 80 pence. If you can't afford that, then maybe your shop shouldn't exist. I ended up gifting them to her so she would shut up because she went on about, that's not the point, you disobeyed me. You know, like I was her slave. She then told me to redecorate the window 3 times because she wasn't satisfied but wouldn't tell me what was wrong. And then she hit me with, I thought you'd know what I wanted by now. Literally, just do it yourself then. I literally had to move your craft table, 4 heavy blocks, and all your ugly decor to even reach the window, 3 times. Another weird thing was when I lost my notebook that I keep for my work schedule and later found it hidden under a piece of fabric on her desk. What's weird about it is how it got lost during the time that I had to tell her my work hours so she could pay me. It's lucky I also tracked that stuff in the calendar on my phone. It's also not like she didn't know it's my notebook. I'm the only employee and it's got my name and my handwriting inside of it. Scheduling was a completely different issue. Every job I worked at, you were asked if you could cover certain days, what your schedule was like for the month, and then you got your work schedule, usually a week before the next month. She expected me to tell her 1 to 2 months in advance when and why I was busy. And if it's anything other than university related, she would schedule me anyways. Hubby and I had a 5-day vacation planned for our anniversary, our first actual vacation away, and when I asked 2 months in advance if I could have those days off, she told me no, that's not a valid reason, and how dare I even think I deserve a vacation after 2.5 months of work. I hadn't seen my family in quite a while, even though they live only 2 hours away, because of this. She constantly forgets that I'm a help, not a full-time employee, not to mention the guilt tripping. The business is suffering because you don't want to work. I'm going to lose the shop if you don't do as I say. You're an employee, not a help. I can force you to work, you know. I would be more considerate if she had posted an actual job offer somewhere other than her Facebook page. A post that got 4 likes and no comments. It's been 2 months. She's not even trying. So when she sent me this month's schedule 2 days before the beginning of the month, I told her immediately that I couldn't make it on the first weekend. She said that I had to. I said that I had university stuff, and then we stopped communicating. I drove home after my university thing to see my family, and then the railway employees went on strike, all trains were canceled, so I was stuck with my family. Thankfully, a friend offered to drive me home so I could make it in time for my shift. But when I came in yesterday, I didn't even have the chance to tell her any of that. She took me aside, said that we should establish better communication, said I'm a horrible, uncommunicative person for not wanting to discuss scheduling issues after a long shift, and also that she was going to deduct the hours that I wasn't working on the first weekend of the month from my pay, about 70 euros. I was kind of ticked, and as she walked out the door, she said this: "Oh, but I got a lot of good feedback from customers about you." Can't pay my rent with compliments, Karen. Everyone's been bugging me for weeks to quit because she has mental issues, going as far as to say that it would be better if the shop simply burned down. I defended her up to that point, but yesterday I reached my limit. I called my mom, told her everything, and my mom asked our lawyers for advice. Yeah, what she's doing is big time illegal where I live. So we drafted my resignation letter, and I sent her a lengthy message at the end of the day, saying I wouldn't be coming in the next day and so on. She lost her mind. I got bombarded with messages saying that she was going to contact a lawyer about me stealing from her. I charged my phone while I was at work because I had to be at her beck and call every second of the day, and theft of sensitive data. I sometimes took home my calculations, which were literally just numbers, no address, no names, and so on, since we don't have an electronic cash registry. And then she ended her tantrum by banning me from entering the store. I'm glad my family has my back, but I'd much rather have a boss that's not insane. Update. It's been a while, and after threatening her with a lawsuit, I finally got my money. No cuts, no more messages, nothing. I was forced, however, to mail in my resignation and the key, which cost me 6 euros because I wasn't allowed to give it to her in person. I'm still very much banned from the store. I also forgot some other equally stupid stuff that she had me do or that I had to live through during my time there. Like that one time, a friend of hers walked into the store, treated me like a servant, and then accused me of hiding our opening times, which were literally right there. I asked her how I could help because she looked kind of lost, and she just said, "I wanted to talk to Karen, so I don't know what you could help me with." She then asked when she would be in, and I replied with, Tuesday, because we just had to change our opening times ever since A quit, and she kinda lost her crap. "Why are you lying to me? What are you hiding? If you meant Tuesday, then why would you say Monday?" I wanted to leave right then and there. It was pretty dang weird. The weekend after I quit, I got a call from an old friend though, who basically said, "Hey, do you still hate your job? Would you like to come work for us?" He's heard all about Karen and seen some of my PR work and told his bosses about me. I had an interview for a position in their social media and marketing team yesterday, and today I got the message that they would like me to come work for them. The best thing is, since their headquarters are 2 hours away, I'm allowed to work from home, and even if I have to go to the office, all my travel expenses are taken care of. My husband and I also did end up going on that vacation. Yay for that. This lady was not a good example of a person, Christian woman, or anything. She should take a self-assessment and realize what she is doing. I'm sorry you had to go through this, OP. "She's faking it. She's not having a seizure. She just doesn't want to work." Posted by Angelic Vexy. I'm a 20-year-old female and I have a disorder called epilepsy. Please search it up if you don't know what that is. I was diagnosed at the age of 12 and have had problems with it since. Different kinds of seizures in weird places like the shower, in the middle of class, during some of my streams, and so on. Backstory. I grew up in a small village that was very popular for tourists. The nature was gorgeous, and there were so many things you could do at any time of the year. During summers, you could take different hikes and stuff. When I was about 15, 16 years old, I moved to a different city away from my parents though, not because of bad parenting, because of my college location. And of course, I did visit them sometimes, like during vacations, breaks like summer and winter, you get the point. During one of my summer break visits, I decided to take on a job to see what it was actually like to work. My dad helped me get one by contacting one of his former employees, who was now the boss of a restaurant located on the top of a mountain with a beautiful view. They sold pretty simple foods there that I could make while working for them. The staff there were really nice to me, and we all did a little of everything because of the small amount of workers. Sometimes I was the chef, and then a few hours later, I would be taking orders or be a bartender for those who wanted non-alcoholic drinks. A little bit of everything. This restaurant was pretty packed during summer, and almost every table would be taken for at least 4 to 5 hours straight. So we had a lot to do when it came to food and serving it. It was pretty stressful for little me, since I don't do good with loud noises in packed locations, PTSD. Kind of a nightmare, in my opinion, but if I was an employee there, then I was gonna work. My boss was very nice to me though, since she knew my dad and my diagnosis. We did have breaks, but they weren't more than 5 minutes long because of everything that needed to be done in this restaurant while it was open. Actual story. One day, a family of 6 walked in while the entire restaurant was packed with people. So much so that some of our customers were sitting on the balcony floor while eating. They seemed fine with it though. After about 7 minutes of me serving some foods and taking orders, giving it to the chef, I heard a super quiet clearing of a throat and turned around to see where it came from. It was from the family, who were now standing in front of the exit door, blocking it. I took a deep breath and walked up to them with a smile on my face. "Hello, ma'am." She rudely interrupts me, saying, "Oh my gosh, finally, you are so slow." At first, I was shocked, but then I asked her if she needed help with anything, to which she responded with, "Well, duh, me and my family need a table pronto so that we can sit down and get some food. We've had a very long walk and need to rest, especially my kids." She points to her kids, who look to be around 10 to 15 years old and just looking at their phones. Even the husband was, not giving a single crap about what's happening. Well, at this point, Karen was right in my face, beet red and looking like she's gonna murder me through poison with the huge amount of perfume radiating from her clothes. I backed away a few steps and I said, "I'm sorry, man, but we are packed at this moment. I can't give you a table right now. If you want to, though, you can wait outside the restaurant until I can." If it was even possible, Karen became even more red and screamed at me, "Let me see your manager. You are being so rude." I started panicking, but did as she said and started looking for my boss, who currently was washing some dishes in the back. I ran over to her and explained the situation. She told me to stay here and that she would handle Karen while I took on the dishes. After a few minutes of washing, my head started to hurt and I was feeling like I needed to sit down or I would collapse at any moment. I knew what was happening and as quickly as I could, took out my phone. I messaged my dad that I was having a seizure and that I needed help because it was getting worse. My dad sent a message that he'd informed my boss and was on the way here to pick me up since I have no way of controlling my body and needed to go home or to the nearest hospital, which was about 5 hours away from where I was. My boss soon came back and told me that I could go home and she would handle my work today. When Dad arrived, he took my hand so that I had support, and we started walking towards the exit where Karen and her family were still standing, with Karen digging daggers towards my dad now. Then she decided to make the most stupid decision I have ever heard or seen. Karen walked up to my dad and started yelling at him. "What are you doing dragging her out of the restaurant? She's supposed to be working to get my family a table. Her boss will fire her for doing this." My boss walked up to her and said, "Ma'am, even though this is none of your business, I have allowed her to leave because my employee is having a seizure and needs to go home for some rest." My dad ignored the argument and we kept walking towards the exit. Then, without any kind of notice, Karen grabbed me and started shaking me to prove that I wasn't having a seizure. My dad became furious and pushed her back, hiding me behind him, out of Karen's reach. "Don't you ever touch my daughter again! I will have you freaking arrested if you even try to talk to her!" My dad shouted extremely loud at Karen so that everyone in the restaurant could hear us. It became completely quiet, and Karen's face was as white as a ghost because she just realized what she had done. My dad then walked out, carrying me in his arms to protect me, since I was completely helpless now with how long my seizure had been going on for. A few days later, my boss told me that Karen and her family have now been banned from the place, and if they try to come close, my boss will call the cops on them. And I can understand why. Because what Karen had done could actually land her in jail. She had attacked a minor who had a disability. Yikes. It cost $1.25, not free for the taking, posted by Dragon Crystal. I'd originally posted the story in Entitled People, but was told to post it here too, so here it is. I'm sure everyone who's gone to the movies has seen flavored salts for popcorn. At the theater that I worked at, we have them laying on a small rack on the registers, and I was told that we used to have a price label on it, but people or kids would rip them off, so management stopped replacing them. So people now believe it's free for the taking, and in this story, I had to get more serious to get them to listen to me. It had been a decent morning, and my shift was about to end in about an hour or so. I've been working concession stand for about 6 months, and I knew how to handle things, especially when it came to customers who take a long time debating on what to order, and I'm a pretty patient person. But even so, some people still manage to irk me, and it's usually those who just grab the salt off the rack and try to sprinkle it onto their popcorn, only to give me the surprise Pikachu face when I say, that'll be $1.25 for the salt. Luckily, it's still sealed, but that doesn't stop them from still wanting to open it. Customer says, "What is this little thing, $1.25? I thought it was free just because it's sitting here." I say, "No, it's $1.25. Managers just place it here so it's easier to manage." "It can't be $1.25. I came here all the time and it's always free." I was told by the GM herself that it's been $1.25 since the building opened, so you want to buy it or not? They'd usually give me a disgusted look before throwing it back on the counter and walking away. I just pick it up and make sure it's not cracked or broken before placing it back on its rack. A few minutes later, it's near the end of my shift, and I'm finishing up my last customer's order. As soon as my replacement signs into the register, I log out and head out, only to hear little giggling from my salt rack and see a small hand grabbing the cheddar cheese salt off the rack. "Hey, that's not free to take, kid." He realized he's been caught, but instead of putting it back, he immediately bolts away, but not before grabbing a handful of candy off the rack. I call after him, but the little goblin just kept running, and I sprint out after him yelling that he has to pay for that. Luckily, he didn't make it too far before I caught up to him. His parents were waiting for him at their auditorium door and questioned why I was following their child. I explained that he took some items from the stand and he either puts them back or pays for them. At first, I thought the parents were going to have him return them. Instead, the entitled dad, I'll call Chad, says, "Well, I don't see the problem with him taking it. It's free, isn't it?" No. The cheddar cheese salt is $1.25 and the candies are $1.50 per pack. Entitled Mom, aka Karen, replies, "Our son would never steal things. I'm sure you're just mistaken him for someone else." "No, I watched him take it from the rack and run away. Why else would I be calling out to him?" The hobgoblin replies, "But I just want some candy." "You still have to pay for it. It's considered stealing if you just run off with it." "Well, he wants it and we're missing our movie. Well, I'll pay for it afterwards before we head out." "The preview's just started. One of you can still go and pay for it. Or you can just leave us alone, or we're going to report you for harassing us and our child. Or I can have security come and escort you to the front, or you can pay for the salt and the candies. Your choice." Chad's looking ticked, and I'm not an intimidating person. I'm very much the opposite, a soft-spoken person and very, very shy, as well as short. But I've dealt with getting picked on, bullied, and pushed around by others, so that I wasn't going to let them get away with it. Chad shouts, "I'm going to have you fired for harassment, because this is unacceptable. You're claiming my boy stole from you when he clearly didn't." At this point, I was getting ticked, and when I spotted security, I waved over to get him to deal with the entitled parents who tried to let their hobgoblins sneak away until I pointed out that he was the cause of this argument, which his parents again denied, and when they became too loud, security was forced to have them move away from the auditoriums, since I'm sure the other moviegoers were able to hear Chad. The manager, the GM River herself, was called, and I told them my side of the story, while the entitled parents still claimed that their hobgoblins still didn't steal anything until River suggested checking the cameras to verify what actually happened. Chad started making excuses about how they were missing their movie, before claiming the hobgoblin should get to keep the salt and the candies as compensation for them missing their movie, admitting that their little hobgoblin did in fact steal them. River, not giving in to them, told them, "Either one of you can pay for them or we get you a refund and you can leave." Chad says, "This is utter bullcrap. Why do we have to pay for it when it's sitting right there? It should be free for just sitting there in the open. Forget it, this place is terrible. We're leaving and we're never coming back again." Security says, "You still have to hand over the things that weren't paid for." Chad takes everything back from his hobgoblin and throws them onto the ground before dragging his screaming goblin away, followed by his just as entitled and annoyed wife Karen, who was glaring daggers at us, remarking, "Ugh, I was right about this place being racist towards white people, always picking on us and just stealing our jobs. You just lost yourself some customers. Oh, and by the way, AMC is better." River says, "Yeah, so what? Go there then." Karen and Chad gives us a final glare, maybe even flipping the bird at us, but I was busy cleaning up the spilled salt to notice. Never saw them again afterwards, but I honestly didn't care, because I've dealt with worse hobgoblins and entitled parents. As we get into the next story, I have to tell you something. Hey, also I added more stories to the new 24/7 HOA Karen radio stream on the channel, perfect to binge or play for background noise while you sleep. Check out the link in the description or on the front page of the channel. It looks like this. Neighbor had my brother's car towed on our property, and this guy is a deployed Marine by Sundeer Shadow Rain. My little brother is a Marine and is currently deployed in Hawaii, and his car has been on our property for a while now because, well, he can't come and drive it since he's in Hawaii. This apparently gives Karen the idea to call a tow truck because it hasn't been moved since he left it. It's not even a terrible looking car either, but I guess it ticked her off that it was sitting there due to being a car that she didn't know. My grandmother's now dead truck has been there longer, but the entitled old Karen knows whose it is because she's seen her drive it. This happened between the time that my grandmother and I left for Costco and the time we got home. The old Karen called the towing company to tow my brother's car because, in her batty old boomer logic, after my grandmother went over to her house to confront her, it's been there for over 2 weeks and it's just sitting there, on our property, not hurting anything. Her husband, a nice neighbor, as crotchety as he can be, was unaware that his wife did this because he likely wasn't home, so he said that he wasn't sure when he had talked to us. So now my grandmother has to call the police and the towing company to get the car back, and she is rightfully furious, as am I, about this, because it means another towing fee that was completely unnecessary. She can't even get it until tomorrow because nothing is even open. She was met with voicemails of the towing not even being open either, which is bizarre before 7 p.m., but whatever, I don't know the towing hours since we haven't had to deal with that before. I absolutely hate the old Karen with a seething and unholy passion because this isn't the first time that she's attempted this garbage either. She's done this on other neighbors because she thinks she can police the neighborhood because of her corner house logic. I do not care how rude this makes me, but I will not be paying that towing fee, and I will not be letting my grandmother pay it. The old Karen will be paying that because it was none of her business to be nosing her old face into things. I don't care if you're old. You do not stick your nose in someone else's business and life, especially if the thing in question is on someone else's property. I will take this woman to court if she refuses to pay for this because she had no right to do this. I mean, what was my brother supposed to do? Be all like, oh hey guys, it's been 2 weeks. Let me go back to my grandmother's and drive my car around the block. I'll be back on Monday with all the flights. Yeah, as if his CO would allow for that just because of Karen. An update. My cranky and tired butt marched over to her house, she was awake and outside, and ripped her a new one about keeping her nose in her own crap and to pay for the towing or I was going to take it higher up and nail her for illegally having it towed. She's paying for the tow truck reluctantly. I haven't slept. Thanks, Insomnia, you're a pal. So I have no craps to give about being cordial or polite with this bullcrap. Entitled people need to mind their own dang business and leave people alone. This commenter points out that the towing trouble could have gotten in legal trouble too. Do you agree? If the towing company gives you trouble, remind them that they removed the car from private property without permission of the property owner. So they actually stole the car, and you will be calling the police on them if it's not returned immediately. Just because someone calls them to remove a car, they need proof that it should be moved first. 100% true. Also, a tow off from private property requires a signature, at which point she was impersonating the homeowner. Felony charges there. Maybe a little fear will stick her nose back into her face for a day or two. No hope for a permanent solution. I'm sure she truly thinks she is helping. Would have you pressed charges on the Karen if she didn't pay? Let me know. Entitled Karen doesn't believe I have surgery, posted by Future OK 6751. Good grief, by this title alone, this is going to be freaking insane. Here we go. This happened about 10 years ago. I was 22 at the time and had to have a knee surgery to clear out shredded cartilage from about a week after my birthday. This story takes place 3 days after the surgery. My mom, who's a nurse, this is important for later, my husband, boyfriend of 2 years at the time, and my best friend decided to take me shopping to try and get my mind off of the surgery and to pick up craft supplies so I wouldn't be bored while I was off of work. I should mention that it was an orthopedic surgery, so I didn't need to use crutches if I didn't feel the need and should be walking some. When we got to the craft store, not our first stop, my husband and best friend made me use one of the store's wheelchairs. Now I was being stubborn because I could still walk, just not very fast or as long without brakes. Since I didn't really want to be in this chair, husband and friend decided to make a game out of it. Like, who could push me the fastest? Now, you might think we are wrong, but let me state this was in the middle of the day, on a Monday, so the store was not busy and my husband and best friend would check the aisle to make sure that the coast was clear. After one of the speeding events, I was looking at something in an aisle and my mom pulled husband and best friend away to look at something else. It was something that she thought I would like and she was going to get it as a surprise for me. Well, I decided I didn't want whatever it was that I was looking at, and then I stood up to put it back. This is when Karen appears berating me for using the wheelchair as a toy and how there are people who actually need it. I am calmly explaining that I just had surgery and that's why I'm using it. She then goes on and on about how she saw what my friends were doing and that I'm obviously lying. I explained that they were trying to make me feel better, and I would tell them to push me normally from now on. This did not appease Karen, and she is still berating me. At this point, I roll up my pants leg and I show her the compression bandages that I am still wearing. She goes on about how that means nothing, and I could have just wrapped my knee as an excuse in case we were caught, and she bet that the other people with me also have their knees wrapped. My group returns at this point and says the same thing as me. Karen is still not having it, and we are all lying. I look at my mom and ask if I can take off my bandages as they were supposed to be removed the next day. She says I really shouldn't, but she could rewrap it for me if needed. At this point, I take off the bandages before anyone can stop me, showing Karen my knee in all of its post-surgery glory. It was bruised and swollen and crusty at the incision sites, and you still see the iodine on my skin. Karen's face goes white, and she looks like she's gonna be sick. She starts stammering about how I didn't need to go that far, as my mom is rewrapping my knee, scolding me and Karen under her breath. I look at Karen and I say, "What else did you want me to do? I told you, they told you, I showed you the bandages, you wouldn't get off of your high horse and insist that we were lying." At this point, a staff member comes to check if we need any help, and then Karen runs for the door. We had a pleasant rest of our day and stopped for ice cream on the way home. Now, as a clarification, we were not running, drifting around corners, using the brakes while moving, doing wheelies, or having more than one person in the chair. What we were doing were speed walking with clear aisles and seeing how far I would go with one push from a dead stop. We were still very careful with that wheelchair. Entitled mother assaults me after her daughter steals my candy, posted by Call Me Destinova 42. Here we go. This happened almost 6 years ago. I had just turned 20. At the time, I was a college student with no job, but I occasionally worked as a babysitter. It wasn't anything too serious, and I charged, almost nothing, but I was good with kids and the parents liked me. Plus, it was the first job that I ever had, so I was proud of it. During vacations, I went to the mall with 3 of my friends to see Spider-Man Homecoming at the movies. We got there early and decided to stop at a toy store so one of my friends could buy a birthday gift for his cousin. There was a candy kiosk nearby, and I wanted to get some for the movie, so I told my friends to just go ahead without me, and I'd meet them in the store. As I was buying the candy, the store was giving out samples of a new product. It was some kind of long chocolate stick, think Pocky but thicker, and they gave me one for free, and I left. I bit into it once or twice and went back to the store to meet my friends. As I was walking through the doll aisle, I passed by a little girl about 7 or 8 and her mother, entitled mother. I put my hand that was holding the chocolate down for a second, and seconds later, the girl came up to me, quickly snatched the candy from my hand, and shoved the piece that she'd broken off in her mouth. I yelled out a quick, "What the heck?" careful not to swear at kids, which got the entitled mom's attention. I explained what had happened to her. To my absolute shock at the time, the mom seemed to be angry at the daughter at first, demanding she'd apologize to me. But the girl was making excuses. She was hungry, the chocolate was right in front of her, she wanted it more than me, and she seemed to think that she had nothing to apologize for. As she proceeded to tell Mom that she'd done nothing wrong, entitled Mom said something along the lines of, "I know, honey, but we don't want the lady to call security now, do we?" What? Entitled Mom, who we'll now call Karen, turned back to me and said, "I mean, really, my daughter, she's just 8 years old. You're a grown woman. You shouldn't be making such a big deal about chocolate." I pointed out to her that, if she wanted candy, they could literally get some for free at the kiosk herself. There was no need to steal mine. Karen continued to defend her daughter, insisting that, I might as well just get more chocolate myself. I was ticked, but I didn't want things to get blown out of proportion. For some reason, though, I had hoped the daughter would at least begin to understand why she couldn't go around stealing people's food. So I said, "Ma'am, I'm trying really, really hard right now to be patient. I'm a nanny, but how could it possibly be okay for your daughter to steal candy from a complete stranger like that?" Next thing I know, my face was burning and there was a large handprint across my cheek. Karen had also had large rings that almost broke my skin. She was screaming at me, but I was too shocked to pay attention. One of my friends heard the commotion and came to see what was going on. I told him that Karen had slapped me, so he called security. Before they could arrive, Karen told her daughter not to tell them anything. Me and my friend exchanged looks and silently agreed that we'd be better parents in the future. The Paul Blarts came and escorted Karen and her daughter out. I later found out that they'd been banned from the toy store for their troubles, and that was more than enough for me. I ended up buying more chocolate sticks. Jeez, I hope that kid turned out okay. Oh man, the title of this story just screams out nasty Karen. Here we go. Entitled Sister-in-Law Stole Our Baby Name and Now She Regrets It, posted by Dad Who Stood His Ground. Oh, here we go. Hey y'all, longtime lurker and all that. This is a throwaway account. To cut to the chase, my wife and I spent 4 years trying to get pregnant before the wrong side of 35. We're currently 33 respectively now and are blessed with a wonderful infant son. My wife has a younger half-sister that she has been low contact with for some time. The woman is entitled and toxic, and also her mother's golden child. We've refused to let her or my mother-in-law in the house since they both blatantly tried to make off with my wife's jewelry box a couple of years ago. The box contained a lot of valuable jewelry inherited from my wife's grandmother. Said jewelry is now in a safety deposit box as per my suggestion. My wife and I had nearly given up trying to conceive when it suddenly happened, and we were ecstatic. After we found out we were having a boy, we started looking into names. I ended up suggesting the name of my Scottish grandfather, and my wife loved it. So that's the name that we settled on. But we made the mistake of posting about it on social media. Well, no surprise to the stereotype in this mess, my sister-in-law was pregnant too, and was months further along than my wife and also having a boy. She decided to claim my grandfather's name for her own son. Oh, and not just the first name, but the middle name too. We called her ticked over what she was doing, and she smugly told us there's nothing we can do about it. Which she was, well, sort of right. There was nothing we could do about it legally, as it's still not a crime to steal planned baby names. We realized that drama was exactly what my sister-in-law wanted, and she thought that by taking the name for herself, we'd not be able to use it. I laughed and told her that while what she did was dirty and underhanded, we would keep our chosen name, and she could just deal with it whether she decides to go through with copying us or not. Well, my sister-in-law's baby daddy called me and said I was an unreasonable jerk for still wanting to use the name after sister-in-law claimed it. I said, hey, she claimed nothing, man. And since we couldn't own the name, then neither could they. Before he ended the call, he threatened me by saying I'd be sorry if we didn't change the name, and then he hung up before I could even respond. Months later, sister-in-law has a healthy baby boy and names him my grandfather's name. We did not show up for the birth, both because of the pandemic and because, well, we simply didn't care to be there. Sister-in-law called us wanting congratulations, but we told her that we simply didn't care, and that if she was still insisting that we change our baby's name, then she'd be in for some big disappointment because we were not. Sister-in-law demanded that I put my wife on the phone, but it was already on speaker, and my wife spoke up and said that she agrees with me entirely. We weren't changing the name. Sister-in-law hung up on us, but soon started sending emails with text walls of names, even suggesting similar ones. I responded back that the name was from my grandfather, and that's why we were not changing it. She shut up, and we didn't hear from her again till after our own son was born. 2 months later, we were blessed with our son. He came out perfect, and we named him just as we'd intended. Well, no surprise, my sister-in-law called us a few days after the birth to scream in our ears that we copied her son's name. I pointed out that she was the real copycat since she had no familial ties to the name and we did. And anyone who looks at our family trees could see that. Then my wife spoke and said, after the attempted theft of her grandmother's jewelry, she no longer considered sister-in-law her sister, and would have nothing to do with her nephew either. For months, we were bombarded with messages and emails from my wife's side of the family. Half were on our side after finding out the whole story, and the other half were not. And sister-in-law's baby daddy, true to his word, showed up at my door to make me sorry. I'm not sure what his plan was, but I pretty much towered over him. I'm 6'1", and I'm well built from regular exercise and 3 trips to the gym a week. He, on the other hand, he was a very skinny and about 5'6", with a baby face that was badly hidden by a slim beard. I told him my house has cameras and to get off of my property and never come back. He just yelled a few obscenities at me and drove off in his beat-up old car. Sister-in-law and mother-in-law called us from a different number to yell at me for making sister-in-law's baby daddy feel emasculated. I didn't even threaten the man. I just told him to leave and not come back. And if he didn't want to feel emasculated, then he shouldn't have come knocking. Then they tried to bring up the issue of the baby name again and demanded that we change our son's name as he's so young, there's still plenty of time to do it. We held our ground and told them that they were bonkers to still think that they were in the right after they copied our choice of name just to try and get one over on us. I said sister-in-law didn't even name her son out of love, but out of spite, just to try and stick it to my wife for no good reason. Then my wife called them both out on the way that she was treated growing up, how entitled sister-in-law and mother-in-law have always been, and how she was glad to leave them far behind. And she wants nothing from them, and they won't have anything from us. That left sister-in-law sobbing, and mother-in-law called me a royal jerk before hanging up the phone. That was no contact again for a little while, till sister-in-law called us again sometime later to bitterly tell us that we'd won. She and her baby daddy got in a huge fight, and he left. He was apparently very sore that sister-in-law didn't let him even give their son a middle name from his family. And he said he was sick of the bullcrap and wanted his son named after him and not some guy he wasn't even related to. Sister-in-law finally caved, and they got the boy's birth certificate reissued with a completely new name, which cost sister-in-law around $500 or so, she claims. Sister-in-law then demanded that we at least compensate her for the name change, plus another $100 for the emotional damage, as she's now going to have to get used to calling her son by a different name. We laughed and said that this never would have happened if she hadn't stolen our baby name to begin with, and we didn't owe her anything. Since then, we've been no contact with sister-in-law and mother-in-law, but my father-in-law, who's a very nice man and divorced from mother-in-law for obvious reasons, would come by often and loves his grandson. From what he and other relatives told us, the situation between sister-in-law and her baby daddy was pretty tumultuous. But we don't care. Not our monkeys, not our circus. Karen sends a disabled man to the ER, posted by ND25607. Here's a brief backstory. I'm 33-year-old female and I double RN for a local clinic during the day and an ER overnight. I'm married with 3 children. So it was an ordinary day at the clinic. There wasn't much going on since Kevin, just dealing with the usual PT or patient woes. Cough and sneezing, minor bodily injury, all that. Whenever a man comes in, and let's call him Todd, he enters with a service dog, a beautiful border collie. Naturally, the dog brings out all the ladies in my office, myself included. My AA or administrative assistant, named Nicole, does her regular scripted greeting towards the patient and asks the young man what brings him in. He's come in because he wasn't feeling well. The administrative assistant gets him started with the paperwork while myself and the MA, medical assistant, and the rad tech are making cooing noises towards this sweet fur baby. While the patient is filling out the paperwork, this small conversation took place. I say, "Hi sir, how are you today? What brings you in?" Todd says, "Well, you see, I haven't been feeling well. I'm having difficulty breathing in and out of my nose, and I'm congested in my chest." "Hey, I'm sorry to hear that. Can I ask, why do you have a service dog? We are legally allowed to ask this question due to the ADA guidelines." "Oh, I was born with Usher syndrome." "What's Usher syndrome?" "Usher syndrome is where, over time, you progressively lose your ability to see or hear. In my case, it started when I left my mom. Yeah, because of my condition, I've also developed an anxiety condition that Abby was trained to sense and cue me down." "Oh, I am so sorry to hear that, sir. Please don't hesitate to call or ask us for help filling out any of the paperwork, okay?" "Oh, thank you, but that won't be necessary. I can see a little, but some things are blurry, but thanks for asking." "Oh, sure, sir. If you need any assistance, let us know. By the way, your doggo, she's really sweet. What breed is she?" Oh, Abby? She's a 3-year-old boarder and she's been my best friend for years. I don't know what I'd do without her. I've raised her since she was a pup. Oh, how sweet. Well, hey, I best be getting back to work. I'll be seeing you and Miss Abby in just a minute as I ruffle the pup's collar. Let me or Nicole know if you need anything. We part ways, briefly to go get the room ready for Todd and Abby. That's when we hear the door chime, indicating that another visitor has entered the facility. Per Nicole, she introduced our Karen. This woman looks like a version of Kirstie Alley, hands her the necessary paperwork, and Karen goes to sit down only a few seats down from Todd. Todd gets up to hand Nicole the paperwork that he's filled out, and Abby perks up and helps Todd across the room. Karen apparently didn't like this and keeps grunting and throwing nasty looks in Todd and Abby's direction. Todd and Abby take their seat and are waiting on myself and the MA to bring them to the back. Karen gets up and approaches Nicole. Here you go. She hands back the clipboard with the paperwork. Oh, ma'am, I'm so sorry, Nicole says, but I noticed that you haven't completed your paperwork. Is there something I can help you with? No, I don't feel comfortable in here. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Can I ask how I can make you feel more welcome? Why, yes, you can start by removing that filthy flea bag. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but that's something I cannot do, Nicole replies. Ugh, why not? It's unsanitary to have a filthy animal in a sterile field. That dog doesn't belong in here. Perfect timing. Poor Abby perks her ears up as she is hearing an ambulance pass by the clinic with its horn blaring and brings her to howl. Ah, shut up, you filthy flea bag, she screeches at the dog. Shut that stupid mutt up. Todd chimes in. Hey, I'm so sorry. Shush, Abby. He pulls on her lead and tries to get Abby to settle down. She doesn't often do this. Bull crap. That mangy mutt probably isn't a real service dog anyway. Probably just bought the vest off of eBay, you lying craphead. Nicole replies, Ma'am, I am sorry, but you cannot be approaching our other patients or the dog. The dog is a service dog for this patient. Please lower your voice. It may disturb the other patients in the office. She tries to redirect Karen as she says, Would you like my help filling out your paperwork so you can be seen by the provider? No, I want this mutt removed and to speak to your provider. Sure, ma'am. Nicole places a brief call to the back nurse station and requests that I come out to the front and give a brief indication that there is an urgent matter happening out front. So I get up and I go out to the front where I greet and meet our Karen. Hi, ma'am, how are you doing today? I say. Not so good, honey. You see, I came in here because I'm experiencing a lady problem, and this beast here keeps making inappropriate noises and it stinks. I've asked your receptionist here to do her job and get that beast out of here, and she refuses to kick that kid and his mutt out. It's just not okay. Oh, well, I am so sorry to hear that. What noises are you hearing that you find inappropriate? It's howling and panting, and it's just so nasty and unsanitary. I'm sorry, ma'am, but per the ADA, we cannot discriminate against the disabled or prevent them from using a service animal. What? He is abusing that animal. How can you people be so cruel and disgusting? You'll burn in heck, you piece of crap. She wags her finger at Todd now. Ma'am, that is enough. You're going to have to calm down or I am going to have to ask you to leave. There is no need for that name calling or for this issue to escalate. That dog is a service animal and is here to assist his owner in daily tasks. Now, if you would like to still be seen by myself or my provider, I can go ahead and take you to the back and have you wait in an exam room. Really? I want to see that mutt's papers. She approaches Todd with her hand out, demanding for his registration papers. Ma'am, I get between her and Todd to prevent Karen from getting too close. That is not necessary, and you're not allowed to ask anyone for proof of identification or medical necessity. I think it's best you find another physician's group to care for you, as we won't be able to help you today. How dare you? Why can't you see me? And why do I have to leave? That monster and his filthy mutt should leave. She argues. I demand you kick them out now. Ma'am, I have asked you to stop yelling. I am sorry, ma'am, but I will not be able to treat you today as you're acting very inappropriate and causing a commotion here. Could you please leave? Oh, shut up. I can do and say whatever the heck I want to, and I will not leave until I am seen and that monster with his mutt are thrown out. While my back and attention was focused on Karen, Abby had gotten up and was alerting to our owner's distress cues from Todd. All of Karen's screaming had begun to make Todd panic. That's when Todd stood up, grabbed Abby's lead, and just collapses on the floor after slightly hitting one of the other chairs in the waiting room. I quickly turn around, rush to Todd, and order Nicole to get the MA and the other RN. "Oh, stop faking it, you stupid idiot." She scuffles and approaches Todd, kicks his boot, trying to make a move. Nicole returns with my MA and RN. While all three of us attend to Todd, Nicole asks for Karen to step back a bit. Why the heck do I have to step back? He is faking it. Get that dang mutt out of here. I told you this was no place for him. Shut the heck up, dang it. Not my finest hour, but I was panicked and irritated at this woman's audacity. The whole room goes quiet. This would be one of those very rare occasions that I have ever gotten this angry. I call over my shoulder for Nicole to phone the authorities and an ambulance. I proceed to position Todd on his back with the help of the RN, and I check his airways and use my hands to feel the back of his neck and his head to make sure there's no bleeding or swelling. I also use my stethoscope to check his heart and lungs. I then proceed to try and wake Todd up. He is not responding. I take out my ophthalmoscope from my scrub jacket's pocket and try to look into Todd's eyes. I check his pulse and I ask my RN to get his blood pressure and pulse oximeter using her wrist cuff. I speak over my shoulder to the MA to start an IV line. I don't think it's life-threatening, but I don't want to risk it with how quickly Todd went down. Besides, he did say he was having issues breathing, and I know we do not have that type of equipment within the office if he begins to code. The longest 20 minutes of my life. And an IV drip started. Todd is on the gurney bed of an ambulance, and he's being loaded into the back of it. I turned to the local authorities that followed the ambulance and asked them to remove Karen from the premises. But you haven't even asked about how I was doing. Ma'am, you'd be lucky that I don't personally press charges against you for assaulting myself, my staff, and that patient. You should be ashamed of yourself. Oh, pish posh, I did nothing wrong. You, not me, should be arrested for allowing that beast in here. Enough is enough, the officer replies. Karen, please follow me. And the officer just drags her out of the office with her stammering. The office did press for a trespassing ordinance against Karen and escorted her out of the building. We haven't seen or heard from her since. As for Todd, and thanks to one of the daytime employees at the local ER, Todd is doing much better and needed to be observed overnight due to his head trauma and cardiac arrhythmia, just for precautions. He made a full recovery. When his relatives arrived at the hospital, the parents pressed assault charges against the Karen. I have been in communication with their attorney. Entitled Mom Tries to Kidnap Her Own Kid, posted by Senior Motor 2647. This story happened in the summer of 2021. As I stated, I'm a nanny then and now. I was hired for the summer by a relatively wealthy man, and I'll call him John, and to take care of his 9-year-old daughter, E. She was such a warm-hearted and sweet young girl. If anything, she was really shy and introverted. This story starts right off the bat on my first day. I got to the house and I noticed a few windows had boxes covering a hole. I asked John about it when I came inside, and the following conversation happened. Hey John, what happened to the windows? He looked at me and flinched. Oh, well, as you know, E's mother and I are divorced, and I have full custody, and there's a restraining order against her for us. We discussed this when I was hired. Well, her mom showed up this morning demanding to see E and have her stay with her. When I refused and told E to go upstairs, she threw things out the windows and left. I made a police report. Wow, was she arrested? He shook his head and said, they couldn't find her, but I called my lawyer, and when they find her, she will be arrested for breaking the restraining order. I nodded and was about to ask what to do if she shows back up, but E called for us and we decided to stop. E came in and we went about our daily routine, and John worked from home today just in case. She never came. A few days go by and we don't hear or see her. Me and E are getting quite close, and we enjoy our time together playing games and going outside. A week later, I get to work and Dad is telling me he has to go to a meeting for work when, bang, The front door gets hit, and later discovered it was kicked. We found a boot print multiple times. Then I hear her screaming, "Let me in! I want to see her! She's my daughter!" I look to John, and he tenses and takes a deep breath. He gestures upstairs, and I know what he means. I run up the stairs and go to E's room. She's getting ready for the day, and I tell her to get back in the corner. I don't know this lady, and I don't know why the restraining order was in place, but I wasn't going to risk her hurting E. I put a chair under the door and tell E to put on her soundproof headphones and watch her tablet. I can tell she was scared and was trying to ask what was happening. I just smiled and said, "Everything is fine." I knew she had an idea, but I wanted to try as hard as I could. I heard yelling downstairs as I put her headphones on. She got in somehow, and I think he opened the door to tell her to leave, and I heard steps upstairs. I called 911 as she was banging on the door screaming E's name. I told them the address and the situation, and as I did, I saw the chair starting to move away from the door. I made the stupid decision to open the door and be the barrier myself. I quickly slammed the door and put myself between them. She shouts, "Who are you, his new whore? Get away from my daughter, she's mine!" I wasn't moving. I told her I'm the nanny and there's no way that she's getting past me. I then heard a small knock on the door. "Mrs. B," her last name starts with B, "what's going on? Can I come out?" I look at the mom and she just yells, "E, come out, it's mommy, come talk to me." E doesn't respond, and John comes upstairs and says the police are on the way. She will be arrested when they get here. Finally, the entitled mom leaves, telling E through the door to unblock her number so they can talk. And she leaves. The cops come and she's already long gone. We make a report and they leave. You'd think it'd be over, but oh no. John is worried about leaving, but he has to make this meeting for his business. I told him it would be okay and to just go. When he leaves, I have E downstairs sitting with me and we are making bracelets. She's very on edge, and even the slightest noise makes her jump. After a few hours, she's a bit better and laughing at some Five Nights at Freddy's videos with me when I hear a knock on the door. I freeze, and so does E. I check the camera, and it's not her. I use the doorbell speaker and ask who it is. She asks if the car outside is mine, and I said yes, it was. She told me she hit it backing out of her driveway. I facepalmed. Could this day just get any worse? Yes, it can. I go outside to do the insurance thing with the neighbor and go inside to call my mom. I'm 19 at this time and the car was in her name, and call insurance. After a few minutes, I hear a loud bang. My blood goes cold. Did I lock the door behind me? Ah, crap. As I start running, I hear E scream, "No, go away, let me go." As I turn the corner from the stairs, I see entitled mom grabbing E and trying to drag her from the couch. I immediately run at her, grab her arm, wrench it back, and kick her in the knee. She yells in pain and falls back. I automatically put myself between E and her mom. While the mom recovers, I put my hands behind my back and sign to E to grab the phone in my pocket. Call 911. I know ASL, and I was teaching E for fun throughout the days. She wasn't great at it, but I think those signs were more obvious. As I felt her grab my phone, I see a glint and I'm face to face with a gun pointing at me. I raised my hands up, and entitled mom says, "You dumb witch, move aside. I'm here for my daughter and I'm not leaving without her. She's mine." "I'm sorry, but that's not going to happen. You can't be here." "I don't give a dang what the courts say. She's my daughter, and they have no right to say I'm unfit. He's been hurting her, I know it." I've never heard this before, and frankly, didn't believe it, but I still figured I had an opening. Well, if that's true, then call the cops. They'll take your view into account. You and I know cops are more likely to believe moms over dads. I don't really know that, that's just what I thought at the time. No. The courts and police don't get to decide what rights I have and don't. I'm taking her from her horrible father. Now, step aside or I will shoot you. I again shook my head. I'm sorry, but that's just what you'll have to do that because I can't let you take her. Briefly, I close my eyes expecting a bang and the gun to fire when E speaks up. "Mom, no, I don't want to go with you. Don't hurt her. She's my friend. Just go away. Dad isn't hurting me. He loves me." Only one who hurts me is you by doing this." To say I was shocked was an understatement. So was entitled mom. "You don't mean that it's your dad turning you against me? I'm your mother and you'll do what I say. Now come here." E stands and I grab her and keep her behind me. No way am I letting my girl anywhere near her gun or not. "No, Mom, the cops are on the way. I called them and they've been on the phone since, so they'll be here any minute. If you hurt Mrs. B, they'll see it." There was a look of realization cross her face, and without another word, tucks and runs out the front door. I run after her to see if she was in a car. She was, and I quickly took things to memory like color, make and model, and the person driving the car. She wasn't alone. She takes off, and under 5 minutes, the cops arrive. I'm in the living room holding E, comforting her, telling her she's safe and she was so brave. To quickly explain everything else. The cops take my statement, Dad comes home, and I explain through tears about how I was so stupid and left the front door unlocked. He assured me that it wasn't my fault, and he was so thankful that I was willing to protect E with my life. Entitled Mom was arrested for a number of charges: breaking a restraining order, attempted kidnapping, attempted murder, and breaking and entering. Later on, I was called as a witness and filled out reports, but Entitled Mom took a plea deal for like 3 years in prison, as long as she signed over her rights, or they'd go to trial, and she risked around 15 years. She signed. I unfortunately had to leave this nanny job because my college was opening again and I had to go back. But I said if a trial needed to happen, I'd fly back. And if they needed anything, they had my number. E gave me the biggest hug on my last day. John gave me a goodbye gift that was actually a brand new Prada bag that was worth like $1,300 as a goodbye present, and gave me my last check in an envelope, which was odd because he never did that before. He just smiled and said to open it when I got home. I agreed and said goodbye. When I drove home, he tripled my pay, which I made like $800 a week. Inside was a note saying the rest was for school. I was studying child psychology to be a child therapist, and he knew that and said I would be great at it, and if I ever needed a reference to call him. It's been a few years now, but I still occasionally hear from E and we talk for a while. She likes to ask me girl questions and have like a sister talk. Her dad is engaged now, and E really likes her and calls her mom already. Nothing made me happier. I'm so glad E was able to come back from this trauma and that I could help in this situation. Easily one of the craziest I've been through, but I got through it okay. Your daughter is a monster, posted by Alley Fox. Context: this happened nearly 20 years ago in my last year before college. The way our school years are separated differs from both the USA and Europe or the rest of Canada. The important thing is that the year teaches 16 to 17-year-olds. Your daughter is a monster, or the first time I was ever sent to the principal's office. The cast is me, my mom, the principal, the entitled parent, and the shy girl. I was part of a special program aimed at higher degrees of science and technology than the usual curriculum. To stay in that program, a student had to maintain good grades, couldn't fail a class, needed to do all their homework on a computer, it really wasn't common at the time, and be on their best behavior at all time during school. In 5 years, the program went from 3 full class groups to less than half of one. We weren't used to being mixed with other students from other programs or from regular classes because we had less time in core classes and more in science and technology. But in our last year, they had no choices but to mix us in because of how small our group had gotten. That's when I met Shy Girl. She had taken advanced biology as an optional class. We weren't friends or anything, we had just met, but she was nice enough. The teacher, entitled parent of this story, was new to our school and, to put it bluntly, wasn't very good at her job. She liked to say that the reason so many students had failed the first exam was because she was French and we hadn't made an effort to understand her. In the second month of class, she decided to pick Shy Girl to answer a question. Shy Girl mumbled an answer, and even though I was in the row right before her, even I didn't understand what she said. Entitled parent exploded. I don't think there's a better description of the screams and insults that came out of her mouth. She also turned a weird purplish color I had never seen on a human face before. Everything came out of her mouth. How Shy Girl was developmentally disabled with a much meaner tone. How she should be in the special eds class. How ugly she was. I stood up and told her to stop bullying the Shy Girl. Entitled parent turned her ire on me. The thing is, she couldn't complain about my class performance, so instead she turned to insulting the class. More people started to get up. One dude threw his pencil case at her, and her screams cranked up. She would have put a banshee to shame. She yelled until she ran out of gas and expected us to just apologize and sit back down, accept the after-school detention she had given us until Christmas break, and shut the heck up. Her words. Shy Girl was crying at this point. I packed my stuff up, and entitled parent yelled at me some more. I packed the Shy Girl's stuff, took her by the arms, and started to walk her out of class. Entitled parent, the teacher, says, "And where do you think you are going, miss?" I'm yelling and shout, "Away from a bully! Whoever loves me, follow me!" I walked out of the class, slamming the door. The teacher next door asked if we were okay, and I just told him that I was going to the principal's office. He gestured me to be on my way when the rest of the class exited the class. Without speaking, we all went to our common area, which coincidentally was right in front of the principal's office. It was empty when we arrived. He had been called elsewhere. Imagine his shock when he was greeted by 30 students all waiting in front of his office. We explained the situation, and he told us to stay in the common area for the rest of class and that he would talk to entitled parent. You think that's the end of the story? No, the best is what follows. The principal called my mom for a meeting between him, entitled parent, my mom, and me. In my whole school career, this was the first and the only time I was called to the office. My mom was exasperated. "Not you too. I have enough of being called every other week for one of your brothers." Principal says, "We are here today because entitled parent says your daughter cursed at her. Honestly, possible that I did. I have quite a mouth on me, but I don't remember if I did or not, and didn't remember at the time either." Mom says, "I can see that she could. Yeah, she did know me well enough to know that I could curse like a sailor when angry." Principal says, "The story I got from other students and entitled parent are extremely different. It was apparently the 5th meeting that day about that incident, all demanded by entitled parent." That's when she blew up again, started crying and screaming all at once. "Your daughter is a monster. OP, madam," talking to my mom, "I have 3 children. I have 3 children, madam. I have 3 children and I never hurt them because I, OP, am a mom. I have 3 children." For 5 whole minutes, she went on and on about having 3 children and being a mom. Nothing else. My mom says, "Look, I have 3 children too. If you say that my kid cussed you out, I believe you. She's not an angel." My mom was trying to calm entitled parent down to get her to be able to talk any sense. Entitled parent just kept going on and on about being a mom to 3 kids, that she was entitled to see us all punished for that because with her being a mom to 3 kids, she couldn't have done anything to any of us. She wanted me expelled. In fact, she wanted the whole class expelled. "None of you deserve me to impart my knowledge with you because I am a mom of 3 kids." She got up and left the office, slamming the door. Principal says, "Not again. It's the 4th time today. The only meeting she hasn't done it in was the first one this morning." He went on to explain that he had another 10 meetings with other parents and students from the other class later in the day, and he wasn't looking forward to it. He told my mom to disregard anything entitled parent said, but that he had to get her back for the rest. It took him nearly half an hour to get her back, somewhat calm. Principal says, "Here's my plan for the rest of the year. OP, you will stay in the library during class time. During exams, you will be accompanied by a teacher's assistant. As soon as you are done with the exam, you will leave the class quietly." OP's mom, "Are you okay with that arrangement?" My mom said yes. Entitled parent says, "She should be expelled. I want her to be expelled because I have 3 kids and I don't deserve that." She stormed off again. The meeting stopped there. I didn't even get to say a word. The worst is, if she had been calm during that meeting and talked to my mom like a normal person, I would have been in deep crap. My mom was the type of parent to trust whatever a teacher said and to punish us harshly for it. But that woman was so insane that she bought me an ice cream on the way home. The The rest of the year was passed in the library for me during that class, except for exams. The teacher's assistant was assigned to the class permanently after another incident. The dude who threw the pencil case confirmed he did do it. He was suspended for 1 day and joined me in the library. Entitled parent was fired at the end of the year after she blew up, accusing and trying to expel a class of 12-year-olds for being the reason CPS was taking an interest in her parenting. She accused them personally of being responsible. I think she got CPS attention of her own merit at home. Everyone I knew all confirmed that meeting with entitled parent, nice principal, their parents, and them went the same way mine did. Now there's a couple interesting comments. I want to hear about the other incident. Sorry River 3561 says, this is pure hearsay, but she apparently blew a fuse at a 13 to 14-year-old for questioning her. Kid said that he didn't understand the material. She said that he was being obtuse on purpose to rile her up. Just an old baby boomer says, sounds like her psychiatric issues made her unfit to be a teacher anywhere. Boheme Winter says, yeah, this doesn't strike me as intentional entitlement. I think she was acutely ill. That's why I want to know more about the story to see what in the world happened. Like, this is not a normal type of behavior here.